Good night. It's the 3rd of February 2025. I have no email and no internet at the farm. People didn't come to fix it yet after the storm. So I used, with the kind permission, another house for the moment, and it has good email. So the Trump presidency it's entertaining by every move. Now, I hope I don't end up with egg on my face that he won't do some outrageous thing. But definitely he's entertaining. He It looks that he is not meeting Putin too soon. I would have thought there had been a meeting with Putin quite soon, and he could. You never know with someone like that. He could actually pick up Biden's policy on the Ukraine. Yet it's unlikely, very unlikely, but you wouldn't know. He hasn't made any moves towards meeting Putin. And it looks to me like he's trying to pull the price of oil away down. And he has garnered the help of Saudi Arabia and other producers for now. And the motive behind that would be that if the oil price goes low enough, that Russia would be in serious financial trouble. But so would everybody else, including his own fledgling and mature producers in the United States. Mostly oil production in the United States is in Texas. They call it, I think, the Permian Basin, or that's mostly where it is. So we'll see how that goes. One of the things that if the oil price went low enough, it'd cripple the wind energy industry in Europe because it gets the highest fossil fuel price. And if the fossil fuel price became very low, its income would be cut drastically. Also, the price of electricity in Ireland and other parts of the world would come down a bit. It takes it a while, but it will come down a bit. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Now, one of the things he's done, he rang up the president of Venezuela. Yes, it's Venezuela. So he threatened sanctions on Venezuela, and the Venezuelan president agreed to take in these criminal gangs operating mainly in New York. So the deportations, he's getting all ready for that, and he's opening Guantanamo Bay. There's 30,000 places there, 30,000 cells or beds. I think it's dormitories that are there. It's in Cuba, but it's American territory, and that's where he's going to put the worst of the criminals. I'd worry a bit as to how he's going to designate them as criminals, but certainly I would think that any migrant or any illegal alien that commits a crime will never get a trial at all. They'll be simply shipped there and left there to rot. I'd say that's what's going to happen, or at least until Trump's presidency ends. So, human rights groups have expressed concern. My only concern would be how he's going to select the ones that are criminals. But those who are criminals, that's the place for them, in my opinion. There was a nursing student called Laken Riley. She'd be Irish extraction with a name like Riley. That's O'Reilly in reality. And she was killed by an illegal migrant, stabbed or killed, who attacked her. Attacked the poor thing. So he's one tough cookie, and now he had threatened to impose 25% sanctions on Mexico, and Mexico persuaded him to put it off for a month to see could they improve the trade imbalance between the two countries. So again, he's gaining results there, whether people like it or whether they don't. Now, the next thing is he's after Canada. Canada's not going too quietly. They have a problem in that they have oil production over in the mid-Canada, and the pipeline is not allowed to go direct to the east of Canada, where there's a lot of people, because environmentalists have said it's causing global warming. And the pipeline comes down into the United States over through Michigan and back up through Canada. So they need that oil in Canada. It just happens to go through the United States. But they're threatening to cut off their oil to America. So I don't know how that's going to go. You have a very left-wing government in Canada. Now, one of the things about Mexico is he wants them to stop the migrants, and they have agreed to try and employ 10,000 troops to stop the migrants. And he's trying to get, it's a great time for anyone in the immigration service or any of the services that want a good firefight, a bit like the old West long ago, a bit like the good, the bad, and the ugly, and Tuco and all of that. So they're trying to egg them into a firefight and murder as many of the Mexican criminals as they can. So Canada will be a bit different. It's a bit more civilized, but they are coming across in droves out of Canada. And also Trump alleges that Canada and Mexico are sending in a drug called fentanyl, which is a dangerous illegal drug, and he blames China for doing it too. I'd say there probably is something to that. So that fight goes on. But anyway, it's only days. I mean, he's only inaugurated since the 20th of January, and this is only the 3rd of February. Now, he says now the next one is the EU. He's going to start on the EU, and I'd like to send him a message out. He needs to give me a job here in Ireland to tell him what to sanction. Now, he needs to sanction the daylights out of the EU. That's what they need, big time. Now, Canada, by the way, has stopped the importation of alcoholic drink, that would be mainly bourbon, from states that voted for Trump. And of course, a lot of the bourbon is made in Kentucky, and it voted Trump this time. So they're saying they won't refuse to take drinks like from California, which is a Democrat state, the blue state, but they will from the like of Kentucky and that. And Tennessee would be making Tennessee whiskey. So there's a bit of a trade war going on there. I don't know how that'll go. Be very interesting to watch. But anyway, to go back to the EU and how he's going to start on the EU, I can't wait. I can't wait till he starts at them. And Micheál Martin, people comment here underneath about her Taoiseach, Micheál Martin. You know, I was talking to a fellow who was at a gig he was at years ago, and he said that his people, his mother's people, were all extreme loyalists. They were big into the Queen and the King and all this stuff. I don't know where that come from. He comes from Cork anyway, and he's a wimp. A wimp. Nothing. No little bit of metal in him at all. Why Fianna Fáil have to pick such an excuse of a person, I don't know. Of course, Simon Harris is no better. At least Mary Lou is a real woman. The other two are two sissies anyway. But they're going over to the Patrick's Day. Ireland has a slot to present Shamrocks to the president, and I believe they're bringing a big heap with them over. That I don't want to go alone, going to see the Donald. Now, people are posting underneath here about them, about Donald give them a puck and all of this. I can't say any more than that, but it's all to play for. I'd like to see movement on the Ukraine. More positive, but we'll see. It will unfold all right, and he said it will. But go back to the EU. I asked there the question what we get from America and what Ireland buys from America. Well, definitely, sure, aircraft. Isn't that one? That is one big one. I don't know why I didn't see that a mile away. Aircraft. Liquor, of course, I said that, American whiskey, particularly American whiskey, and good whiskey too. And also Briggs and Stratton engines and some machine tools. And I buy some very special drill bits, very special tungsten carbide that'll drill right down through a file. Not that tough, that hard, very brittle. I buy some stuff from America, and there's always a bit of duty on it. And in all fairness, it's not much. You might pay, on something costing $90, you might have to pay $6 a duty. But we are paying duty, and I paid it myself on stuff coming in through the post and that. But and it's into Britain as well. So he says it's not fair trade at all. Now, one of the things we never see here is American cars. Somebody did mention there was one type of one there, a Jeep or something, I don't know. But he asked a question of the EU today, how many Fords are there? You know, Ford, American-made Fords, and how many Pontiacs and how many Lincolns and all that do you see in Europe? And he says none. And yet our streets are full of, he says, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, Volkswagen, he named them all. And but he says we can't export into Europe. I'm just going to try and play it for you here. I can't get the one I wanted, but this will do anyway.
Massive deficits with the European Union, massive, like $350 billion, if you can believe it. They don't take our farm product, they don't take our cars, they don't take almost anything, but we take their cars. We have millions of cars coming in, BMW and Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagen and just so many different cars, and we don't do anything about that, and we don't charge them tariffs. They make it impossible to sell cars in the European Union. They make it very difficult, agricultural product. They actually don't take it, and they have a lot of excuses. Some of them are the pesticides and the different chemicals used, and Bobby Kennedy actually is looking at that very, very seriously, because maybe it's not necessary to use all of that. You know, we want to be the healthiest country, and we're not. We spend more money on food than anybody else in terms of its creation, but we're not the healthiest country. So maybe there is something to the fact that we shouldn't be using so much chemical, and maybe that'll stop. But Bobby Kennedy is the one, because he is not a believer in all of the things we have done, and neither are the Europeans. So we'll see what happens. But they use it as an excuse not to buy our product.
No, very, very good. So that's, you can comment underneath. That's the way he sees it anyway. It's 350 billion of a trade imbalance. Well, it's very, very true. I mean, America's full of European cars, but there is none. Well, I never saw any here in Ireland. Someone said there's one or two made in the USA, but they're not. Did you ever see a television made in the USA? Nothing. I'm not too sure if any of them Milwaukee power tools are made in America. I think a lot of them are China. I think they're all mostly the same. But one of the things about that little clip there I see is that on the food, and we're bringing in American food, he does concede that there are questions about pesticides. And I don't know whether that's right or not. I think they do use a lot of it. Now, he says Bobby Kennedy, if he gets confirmed, will be the man to sort that out. And that's given a little prod, because Kennedy is under severe strain getting appointed because the big pharma don't want him. He's going to stop their behaviour and them poisoning people and all of that. That's what some would say. And they don't want him confirmed. So that'll show you the money that's involved. It's a very subtle point. But Trump does concede there that the EU may have a point on the pesticides. And although he does go on to say they're only using it as an excuse and we're going to put tariffs on them, at least he has the brains to see that that could be a valid point. That if the American grain, let's say, is oversprayed with the pesticides or whatever, well then it might not be good for the health of Europeans. And so that's a little concession. That to me shows a degree of selectivity, that he's not just the big moron they say he is. Any event, that I'm sure would be conceded, and the EU would be able to sit down with him on that, but he's not going to accept that. He's going to want to bring American cars into Europe. And do you know something? I think if there were American cars on sale in Ireland, and I'd say there'd be 90% of them would be internal combustion engine cars. Sorry when my hair standing up. I'd say there would be. I'd say they'd sell. I'd say people would like to have the Made in the USA badge on their car. It'd be a good enough selling point. So he might have a point there. But of course it would further cripple the European car industry at a time when it's under severe attack from China. So they wouldn't be able to sell a car in Europe, Volkswagen or an Audi at all. You know, like this is the danger for Europe for all of this. I'd say there's a lot of people with sleepless nights in Europe. In any event, well, let's see what else he's doing. Oh yes, he's going after US aid. And he has what they call the first buddy, Elon Musk, is in that department. He's not an official as such, he just advises the president. Now, Canada has threatened to pull $100 million investment in Musk's SpaceX project. But that's for another day. But staff at the USAID, this is where America doles out aid all over the world, and the Democratic Party were giving it out like confetti. And I have a wee bit of private information that there's huge fraud. That huge amounts of the billions in aid going to foreign countries is all siphoned off and may be fraudulent, and there may be criminal charges arising out of some of that activities. But anyway, he's shutting down the whole aid. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, in America, there are several states where people are dirt poor. Dirt poor. Living on $300 a month. And during the financial collapse in 2008, we were told the subprime mortgages were because old ladies and that cleaning ladies bought lovely homes for themselves and all that, and then they weren't able to pay them back and the whole lot. I wonder if they had to be given proper remuneration for their work, living in the richest country in the world, that they wouldn't be able to pay for these houses. Why was America giving billions and billions away when their own people were being evicted? And we see in particularly in Western North Carolina, the poor treatment. They got £700 for people who lost everything, their house and all. And we see in the wildfires of California, while it's a richer area, at the same time, they're battling the fires there. But apart from that, there is huge poverty in the United States. And how can it be justified to be sending aid abroad when there's such poverty at home? Anyway, Trump is cutting the whole thing and he's going to review it. And one of the things that's on the chopping block is the money being given to Ireland, and particularly Northern Ireland, which was for the International Fund for Ireland and all of them, which was brought out at the time of the Good Friday Agreement. I think that's now going to be looked at. That's going to be probably chopped. At this stage, it's very hard to see why American taxpayers should be paying into, around the border and around Monaghan and Cavan. Surely, at this stage, they're busy working, everyone's as busy as a bee, and the economy's fairly good, and if they can't get jobs in the north, and there is jobs in the north, they can come down and work in the south, and they do that as well. So I don't see why what's wrong with them pulling that money, but I think it is absolutely outrageous. What Trump is actually saying is, your days of living off the American state is over. The whole of Europe were cheating them. They were all pulling out of America. And the next thing now they have to own up to is security. And security is should cost them 5% of GDP, but it's not. But so he has been long telling them that he's going to leave them there and dump them and dump their NATO and the whole lot unless they shape up fairly quick. I mean, a lot of this green baloney and this woke stuff is all because they have the money, and the reason they have the money in Europe is because they're ripping off America. Amazing that anyone came along. Nobody else seen that. I hope it stays good for Trump. I don't know, will he make he'll make some mistakes along the way, but he could be very lucky. Anyway, comment underneath and we'll see you back soon.